Hello, I'm BLF and you're a viewer. I'm making a RIMWORLD video and you're viewing it. Up until I made this decision, I've never put any real effort into beating the game before. Not because I don't like it, it's just been this way with every game that has you make progress in your own direction. The Sims, Stardew Valley, Animal Crossing.
You're starving? That sounds like a you problem. Go make some money, dumbass!
Anything that rewards you for concentrated effort over time. I either start over because I'm unsatisfied with my decisions, or because I stopped playing for a few weeks and have no idea what I was doing when I get back. Maybe it won't be any different this time, but I've gotten to the point where I'm pretty sick of my Steam library being unfinished, where I'm just lacking a sense of accomplishment. I just want content. Anyways, here's the rudimentary concept I've got going for the run. 1. I'm included in this run. Me, personally, BLF. Much like how everything functions in real life, this entire world revolves around me. And if I die, it's over. 2. There is no discharge from the war. Death does not mean an end to this challenge. It means those minutes, hours, or days of effort get packed into an easily viewable segment of the video, and I try again until I've succeeded. This doesn't really amount to much. There's far greater achievements than this found on YouTube, but I've never expected to get through anything with competence. I'm sure your 1x1 grid run is impressive. I'm sure your nude colonist playthrough is ingenious. People watch my stuff because I'm a train wreck. We settle for a crash-landed colony. Cassandra Classic, Try to Survive, Commitment Mode. I slightly raise the overall rainfall and slightly lower the overall temperatures, because those conditions make me happy. As for living conditions, I settle for what feels like the extraterrestrial equivalent of as far away from Madagascar as possible. I believe, with enough man and brain power, I can handle most of the things this world throws at me, but I've watched Madagascar 3, and across every known corner of the universe, I don't believe there's a single living creature that could go toe-to-toe with those monkeys. The commenter class felt like I was looking into a mirror, but I have enough self-respect to believe I'm at least slightly more valuable than this. I ended up settling for a feline scientist in hopes that this choice would free me of the obligation of finding the perfect woman and instead give me the opportunity to make one. My basic traits were cold inclined because Texas frankly makes me want to kill myself, and cat person for reasons I've already elaborated on. I won't say too much on the other two characters, but I almost settled for this Oompa Loompa looking guy until I realized the game tried making me directly related to him, and I'd rather not dip my toes in the gene pool that made this guy. The game opened up, and all three of my survivors crawled out of their pods spewing space rations. A stockpile zone was established. Every loose material on the map was unforbidden, and with our two most basic commands out of the way, a monument needed constructing. Before any research was made, before food sources or security or safety were established, I set up a 4x4 room, a double bed, and a cuck chair, the heart of our society. The game itself was repulsed by this decision, because even after assigning my other two colonists, Boot and Rata, to the same mattress, it continued to insist I make a third bed. Speaking of Boot, I had mostly only been interested in my character's traits and relations. I hadn't bothered looking at their health. Rata and I are both fine, but Boot, on top of looking old and debilitated, was old and debilitated. He had both forms of locomotion hindered by gunshot wounds, a frail torso, which could mean a lot of things but none of them are very good, cataracts in both eyes putting his sight down to 50% efficiency, and also dementia. I have to admit, I wasn't sure whether I should feel worse about making someone like this spend their last few years doing manual labor, or worse about trying to force Rata into a relationship with a dementia patient. But we're in a dangerous world now, and if we want to see tomorrow, neither of these are negotiable. The first week was a slow crawl, where very little happened besides gathering resources, taking stock of our surroundings, and making sure that the trio wasn't completely exposed to the world. On day 4, it got around to asking what my colony's name should be, and for once, I settled for something serious. This is a permanent home, a place that my pawns, my people, will rely on. I did a tiny bit of research on the first place where my ancestors settled, and the faction became known as New Virginia. It's a statement of a new age, I didn't even know we had a cat, but this couldn't stand. The country's very first act of violence was going to be executing it, and I'd personally be having Boots oversee it. Boot, I'm sorry, run, Boot, run! Boot, I'm sorry, run! Making an 80-year-old man square up with 800 pounds of muscle went about as well as you'd expect, and I had to step in after it was solidified that Boots was going to be useless and Rata just didn't care. I hadn't even caught the cat's name, mind you, and there literally wasn't anything left of it, but the sunk cost fallacy had already taken hold. The bear took 2 bullets to the head and still required an entire day kiting it before it finally keeled over and died. Boots was thrown into bed. The bear was thrown on the butchering table. And that was the end of that story. This entire event marked the very first week of our colony. After the dust settled, I had to take stock of the problems that I could address and solve right away. Food was our biggest flaw. The moment we'd fully recovered from the shock of the bear attack, Boots had his 88th birthday, hit the ground, and did not get back up. So we had 2 mouths to feed that couldn't provide anything in return, including this prisoner I couldn't find any valid plot points for, and our food was dangerously low. Our stomachs were empty. Our morals were low. The cuck chair was gathering dust. It got so bad that even though we planted both rice and potatoes that were both close to harvest, even though there were multiple animals on the map we could have hunted, even though the snow hadn't set in yet and there were multiple berry bushes we could have harvested, Retta found a crash ship full of dead colonists and hand-fed one of them to boot. I don't think these two are as compatible as I wanted them to be. The food scarcity problem felt like it'd be an issue for only a day or two, but it pretty quickly morphed into something I would have to fight for a very long time. Each colonist needed 3 meals a day, tallying up to 9 meals. Just to keep everyone happy, much less alive, we needed 1 full plant harvest or an animal hunted daily, which redirected a lot of time and effort that our colonists could have used for anything productive. This continued for a while. In between Boot being helpless and our entire colony sharing the brain power of a single-celled organism deprived of its nucleus, we accomplished a little more than the bare minimum every day. It eventually culminated in the decision to just try leaving Retta alone with Boots for a day or 3 to find someone I could buy a slave from. I put together roughly 3 days worth of food and set out on what hopefully be a 2-day trip. And it was a 2-day trip. And neither of the settlements, the unwashed thieves or the pristine republic right next to them, sold slaves. And Retta, who I'd left alone with the intention of restocking our food and tending to the defenseless old man while we were gone, would not cook. I didn't have my mic on for this section of recording, so we're going to have to get a little interpretive for how I responded to this. I'd assume that my pawns are mistaking a completely clueless god for a vengeful one by now. There's good news behind problems like this though. Shortly after we got back to the settlement, we'd gotten an optional quest to help a pawn escape from an assailant. The assailant's name was Joey. Our 4th colonist's name is Shah. She made herself useful about as abruptly as she'd shown up, and after about 3 days of her being there, we'd set up shelves within our stockpile zone, made a small pen for our animals, and even got the housing and production areas connected through a few basic paths. Even with the extra mouth, we managed to keep ourselves fed every day. So far, she was a good luck charm. The world spun, the seasons changed, life continued. It got colder, so we extended the production area and set aside a sewing station to make parkas. I tried setting up a much wider space than that though. I was hoping to get to the point where I could move the butchering table away from the research desk, because I don't really think that a 24-hour lo-fi stream can be replaced by a dead moose getting its hide peeled off 4 feet away from your desk. And then, we finally had an opportunity to put Shah to the test. Fitz, a prisoner of the evil-ass criminal organization, had sent out a distress call that we received. We didn't have the technology for it, so I'm just going to assume that our horseshoe spike picked up the message. Unsure of the danger, I'd opted to send both Retta and myself off to rescue her. It was the most manpower we could afford. Boot was a cripple, and someone had to look after the settlement. It shouldn't have been Shah. I've triple-checked the footage, and I've got no clue where it happened, but sometime after these two left, Shah's level 1 cooking and habit of leaving freshly made meals lying on an unwashed floor gave both Boot and herself food poisoning. They both got ill. Violently ill. And because Shah wouldn't do dumb labor, she couldn't clean any of it up. Here's an unrelated fact. When penguins gather in large enough groups, the bodily waste they produce can be seen from space. As per our rescuers, it hadn't occurred to me that Fitz would be taking the trip back home in negative 12-degree weather wearing thin cotton clothes until she had contracted hypothermia, suffered frostbite, snapped off a toe, and got an infection. Normally this would be cause for concern, but if Boot hasn't had a mental breakdown by now, then she's probably fine. Hold on, there's something missing here. I promise this wasn't intentional. I've already made one cheap cop-out in my last video and didn't plan on doing it again immediately, but a big chunk of my footage just isn't here. My available clips just jump forwards to one colonist being dead, another being MIA, and a third having shown up that I'm pretty sure I never even put into the colony to begin with. I don't know what happened. I had OBS on the other screen every time I hit record, but pretty much all the footage needed for the remainder of the video just isn't there. This should be cause for giving up on the video entirely, but don't worry. I have a solid memory, and I'm pretty sure I can put together the last events completely from scratch. Boot got infected with fibrous mechanites while the gang was on their way back. It's a cluster of benevolent nanites that wildly boost all physical stats after affecting the host. For a whole of 3 seconds, bad back and all, he could walk again. This ended when he slipped on the puddle of vomit left in the entryway, slammed the side of his head against the cut chair on his way down, and immediately died of blunt trauma. Fitz did slightly better than this. The injury she developed on the trip back home didn't kill her, but we did run into a passing group of slave traders. They tested her morals with an offer of 2 silver pieces and a single unit of wood reclaimed to her, and Fitz learned that she would have been better not sending any distress calls at all. The stress of all of this happening finally led to both BLF Jr. and Rada seeking comfort in religion. They both converted to the Islamic faith shortly after returning home. This led to an immediate spike in friction with the evil-ass criminal organization, which surprisingly was a devout Catholic group. They had a crusade formed within a day of the news reaching them. It's safe to say that New Virginia and its infantile state was no match for a religious superstructure. But BLF Jr. died fighting anyways. His last actions both earned him a place in Jinnah and solidified his position as a Shaheed. But he died bleeding out on the cut chair, so we're really not sure how the whole 72 virgins thing worked out. Rada also died fighting for New Virginia, but she was born with a cilantro soap gene, and if the Lord put her on this mortal plane, deprived of the one inarguably good thing the world has to offer, then she probably went to hell by default. As for Shah, I don't think my computer can handle that.